Hey, we got it. It's us,
Yes.
Mike Miller, Jeremy Price. Folks, you have no idea how long we were just messing with our computers trying to get this to actually work after, gosh, how long we've been doing Scoop Talk at the HT? 6, 7, 8 years? It's been a long time. 6, 7, I don't know. Yeah, this is one of the few times we've actually had serious technical difficulties that jeopardize the production of said Scoop Talk. But we're here. Let's talk. Indiana beat Purdue 77-73 on Saturday night here at a rockin' Assembly Hall. Capacity crowd here. Students were lining up. The GA line stretched all the way around Gladstein Fieldhouse. It was, you knew it had the makings to be a special day here in Bloomington. It was unseasonably warm. Folks were out partying. Those parties spilled out into the front yards in some of the homes around campus. It was just a very celebratory, convivial day in Bloomington. And given Indiana's track record here at Assembly Hall, given really just the way they've been playing of late, meshing at this point in the year, it all seemed to be building to this point. And sure enough, it was a 77-73 win. Of course, there was final 5 minutes were worth. You had to sweat out those final 5 minutes, but it was a win nonetheless. An important win, a win that keeps Indiana at the head of the Big Ten title race.
Yeah, just well, first of all, the 8:30 tip, that might have been a little too late almost for some folks. They were well too much time to get ready for this one. Yeah. But fantastic crowd, and for the most part, a fantastic game for Indiana. Like you said, those last 5 minutes, well, burn the tape on that. But you know, even though it wound up being just a 4-point game and really came down to the last minute, it didn't really feel that way. And certainly, you know, Indiana, by and large, outplayed Purdue and out-toughed Purdue tonight, which was the biggest thing. You know, it seemed for a while like Purdue was going to slowly kind of grind their way through this one, sort of just kind of pound Indiana into submission eventually. But to the Hoosiers' credit, they never gave in, never really caved in until that final 5 minutes. And a lot of that was, you know, Purdue made a lot of threes there down the stretch that isn't typically their game, and Indiana made a few mistakes to help them out. But overall, by and large, if you're Indiana, you couldn't be much more happy with the way this night went.
Nah, you said, I mean, they just didn't give an inch, and it played out. At least to start, you know, Tom Crean went with the Michigan State lineup with Max Bielfeldt over Colin Hartman, and that was to kind of stabilize, ease Thomas Bryant into this matchup. And really, throughout the entire night, actually, Bielfeldt picked up a couple quick, or at least one picked up
one quick foul, and Hartman was in.
Hartman came in,
what, 2 minutes in, something like that.
It was very early, where Max was back on the bench. But boy, Max Bielfeldt came back with a vengeance.
Yes.
He had a whole stretch there. It was, I think, a 10-0 run for Indiana, midway through the second half, around that point, 15 minutes, 10-minute mark. Of those 10 points, 8 belonged to Max Bielfeldt. A couple threes, layup. I mean, and it was on both ends, too. It wasn't just the points. I mean, he was battling, and that was really the key for Indiana all night. Just the common theme was, you said it, just the battling. They did not give an inch. They matched the toughness, and they showed some toughness of their own.
Yeah, it was a night where you could have multiple MVPs from an Indiana perspective, and we'll come back to that maybe in a minute. Certainly Troy Williams was fantastic. Yogi Ferrell had a great first half and made the key plays in the second half. But for my money, I think Max Bielfeldt would probably get my vote on this night just for that stretch he had. He scored 8 of his 10 points during that stretch, grabbed a couple of rebounds, drew a couple offensive fouls, including a third foul on A.J. Hammonds. Just huge, and really took Indiana from a position where it was sort of struggling and hanging on, and you felt like Purdue was just on the verge of really getting back in the game. Instead, you know, Bielfeldt came in, I think it was at about the 15:01 mark of the second half, and over the next 5 minutes, a 7-point Indiana lead turned into a 19-point Indiana lead. And that's where Indiana just took control of this game, and up until those last few minutes when things got a little hairy there, you know, I think that was the key stretch of this game.
Plenty of dimensions to this when you mentioned just the way they matched the toughness and the physicality. I thought in a lot of ways Indiana really maximized their advantages too. I mean, from the backcourt perspective, hitting the threes that they have to hit, they played simple and calm and in control. They only had 4 turnovers, and I think 1 at halftime. And through maximizing those advantages, I thought a lot of guys had their own signature moments in this one. You know, Troy Williams had his end-to-end stretch late in the first half. Yogi Ferrell obviously continues to pop up all the time. Thomas Bryant scored the first 7 points of the second half. OG Anunoby was in there. Juwan Morgan, again, gave Indiana outstanding minutes off the bench. It just seemed like, by and large, as a team, through maximizing their advantages, everyone was able to step up in their own way.
They did, and Troy in particular. I mean, I thought tonight was probably all around wise might have been as good a game as he has ever played at Indiana. You know, he's had bigger offensive nights maybe, and he had a good one tonight. But just defensively, he seemed more keyed in, more active. If there was a ball on the floor, he was on it. You know, he forced several jump balls, just got out in transition, was just active, and want Troy Williams to be active tonight. And that was big. And then, like you said, just multiple guys making contributions. Juwan Morgan had a 3. OG had a 3. Some typical, what has become typical OG dunks, I guess, at this point.
Juwan Morgan's 3 came off a driving kick from Troy, too, so there was that.
There you go. So, and then I think it was a possession later after Juwan hit that 3, he and Yogi kind of had a give-and-go exchange that wound up with a Yogi 3. So just a lot of little things that people were doing. And like you said, I mean, the big thing is that Indiana was able to take, while Purdue played to their strengths, pounding the ball inside, Indiana was able to counter that by getting production from Bielfeldt, Morgan, Anunoby, those guys, Hartman, those guys who were able to stretch the floor and sort of put those Purdue bigs in an uncomfortable position at the other end of the floor. So much more effectively than they did last year. And I think that's the biggest thing is you looked at last year, and Purdue largely imposed their will on those 2 games last year. And this time Indiana, didn't let them do that, or at least countered with a will of their own in this contest.
Yeah, I went back and I added up last year's. Between the 2 games, I think Purdue scored something like 128 of their 150 total points, either in the paint or at the free throw line. They clearly dominated in ways that only Purdue can. Not so much that way tonight. And going back to Troy Williams for a moment, just so we don't forget, Williams did become, I think, the 8th player under Tom Crean at Indiana to score 1,000 points. So he's in that elite club with a few other guys.
Seems only appropriate.
Although we don't know the severity right now of Robert Johnson's injury. Took a spill, looked like it was, a left foot or ankle, something like that.
It looked like a left ankle to me. I saw some people said right, but I'm pretty sure it was the left ankle. But
I couldn't see over the standing people in front of me, but I'm taking you at your word. Lionel Anderson had to come on the court and carry him actually to the bench. I think there was a moment when Juwan Morgan came off the floor.
Yeah. And I didn't see, as far as I could tell, I think he got off to the locker room under his own power to some extent, I think. So.
I was busy writing. I didn't see that. I did notice that they didn't have him go through the whole handshake line. They just stood him at the end and had him just stand there and shake. He wasn't doing any walking. I
think they were trying to minimize the pressure on that foot. But the good news is that he's got basically 5 days to recover with Indiana not playing again until Thursday. What you hope is it's just your average sprained ankle, not a high ankle sprain or anything more serious than that.
Right, exactly. This is a guy who's been playing through some undisclosed injuries, I guess we'll say, through much of the year anyway. So he does seem to have some sort of pain tolerance that he can rely on. Again, we don't know the severity. Only 2 other scholarship guards beyond Robert Johnson at this point, with Yogi Ferrell and Nick Zysov. Harrison Nigo's gotten some good run recently, and he's a guy you can trust for a few minutes here and there. I'm not sure how long you really want him on the floor, but moving forward, I mean, that could be a key loss if it is a loss of any significant time.
Yeah, absolutely. I think if they had to, they could get by for a game. Yeah. But especially when you've got those Iowa and Maryland games coming up, the last 2 games of the season, those you definitely need your full complement of players for.
Well, we're hitting the road again, back-to-back road games, beginning with, you already said it, what was it, Thursday, Illinois, 9 o'clock at Illinois, and then March 1st at Iowa. Then we're back on, March 6th?
March 6th, Sunday, Maryland. March 6th, last day of the regular season.
Closing the old ball hall down for the year.
Where Indiana is unbeaten, both men's and women's at Assembly Hall, and each team only has 1 game left at Assembly Hall this year.
It's amazing. I'm honestly a little bit more impressed on the women's side, but I mean, just the way the men have kind of made this place their own this year too has been really kind of cool to watch. So we'll see what happens. It's going to be a fun next couple weeks as we close up this season, see where Indiana lands in this Big Ten title push, and from there head into both ensuing tournaments. Jeremy, it's been a late night. The computers have given me a headache.
Yes. Let's go home.
Let's go home. Thanks, guys.